The number one thing to do if you just lost your job. Times are tough. Coronavirus isn't just causing health problems, it's wreaking havoc in the economy too. Every country, GDP is down. Industries are closing down and unemployment is skyrocketing. Millions of people are now looking for work. And they're looking for answers. Is the next move to immediately look for another job? Is this the right time to start a business? What should you do financially? Do you sell off your investments? Do you borrow money? Who do you ask help from? While all these questions are important, it's not the number one thing to do if you just lost your job. But this number one thing is so crucial because it can affect the way you think your answers through those other questions. So, what is the number one thing? That's what we'll talk about in this video. And to immediately start things off, let's jump straight right into the number one thing. The number one thing to do when you have just lost your job, and a lot of people forget about this, is to get closure. Wherever you work or how long you work there for, that experience has become a part of you. The people you worked with and became friends with, and all of those shared experiences, all the memories, you dedicated a portion of your life to your work. And it's important to give it the right amount of time for closure so that you don't get stuck trying to recreate it, run away from it, or be held back by it. But before I share now to you how do you get closure, I want to first talk about what not getting closure from job loss looks like, because it's actually a lot similar to relationships. So, the first case is, have you ever met a person who couldn't stop talking about their ex? And you're like, sis, bro, it's been 5 years. Yes, she or he was your first love, but man, it's time to move on. And we see this with job seekers right now who say worked in the airline industry for 5 years, 10 years, and the past 3 months have been applying to, guess where? Other airline companies. And we're like, sis, bro, Corona killed the entire travel industry. Isn't it time to look elsewhere? Now, the second case of having no closure looks like this. Have you ever met a person who, right after getting out of one toxic relationship, jumps into the next one, like just a week later, and they tell you that this is the one? But after a month, all of the problems of the previous relationship start seeping into this new one, and it's looking to be like the same toxic relationship, but just with a different person. We see this with people who just lost their job right after when they jump into some random opportunity they found, and at first it's looking good and they're super excited about this racket, this side gig, or even new job. But then again, they aren't able to get any momentum or traction, so they either quit, hop onto a new opportunity, or lose the job again. This happens if we don't get closure. Now, the third case of not having closure is, have you ever met someone who after a breakup just did something wild? Like travel for 40 days on a whim, changed their hair color, or got a tattoo, bought something outrageously expensive, or suddenly quit their job, or they became an F-boy or girl. I don't know, but it's something wild with it that it either goes really well for them or it's something that they end up really regretting. And with job loss, this wild thing can manifest in ways where you suddenly decide to take out a loan and start a business, or shift to a totally different career track, or, I don't know, change your hair color, get a tattoo, again, something out of character that has a high risk of going really well or ends up something you really regret. Now, with these examples, I want to make clear that I'm not saying that they're bad or that they aren't the right steps, but simply acknowledging that all of these are coping mechanisms for finding comfort and meaning. So, for the examples we just talked about in relationships and in losing a job, This is human nature at work. And the point I want to make here is that all of these things actually become unnecessary if you just find closure, so that you don't act on a whim, so you're not running away or trying to recreate your past, so that you're not driven by fear, past pains, comfort, or scarcity. Instead, when you get closure, all your decisions in this new chapter of your life will come from a place of peace and gratitude. It will come from a place of strength, confidence, and wisdom. So, in this video, I won't be recommending if you should start a business, move to a new career track, or sell off investments or borrow money. I'm not here to recommend any of those steps, but those are things that you can decide and get for yourself if you have closure already. With that said, let's now talk about how do you find closure? And that boils down to asking yourself these 3 questions. Number 1, complete the statement. In the time I worked here, the things I'm going to miss are blank. So reflect and think back to these moments that you know you'll cherish. Imagine the people you won't be able to see anymore or interact with anymore. What moments are you going to miss? Who are the people you're going to miss? What activities are you going to miss? Give yourself time to reflect on those questions. Now, question number 2. Complete the statement again. In the time I worked here, I wish I could have done these things differently. In other words, was there anything you could have changed in the way you worked? Or maybe in a major decision you wish you could change from the past? Maybe this could even be a regret, or something that you know you could have improved or done better. Give yourself time to think about this statement. If you could live out the past years that you stayed with a company, what were the things that you could have changed? Then, question number 3. Again, complete this statement. In the time I worked here, what lessons am I going to choose to bring with me as I step into a new chapter in my life? I know that was a long one, so let me unpack that. What lessons are you going to choose to bring with you? Meaning things you've learned, and here you're looking for those nuggets of wisdom that you've gained because of the work that you did. And now you get to choose which ones are you going to bring with you as you step into the next chapter of your life. And we ask this question because it lets you integrate your past, the lessons learned, into the now, the present moment. And today, right now, you get to choose what to bring with you into the future. So that if you've stayed with your company for 1 year, 3 years, 10 years, 20 years, while there is a feeling of loss, you get to keep a memento from that experience. That all those years weren't for nothing because you get to choose the lessons you've learned and you bring that with you into the future. And I know as I describe this, people are going to be nodding their heads thinking, oh yeah, this is a good idea. But I want to challenge you to actually take the time to reflect on these 3 questions. The moments you appreciated, the things you wished you could do differently, and the lessons you choose to bring into the future. So I invite you to open up your calendar, pick out a 1-hour time in the next 3 days and mark that off so that you can get closure. And in that hour, with your journal, ask yourself these 3 questions. In the time I worked here, the moments I appreciated and I'm going to miss are, start writing. In the time I worked here, the things I wished I could have done differently are, what are those going to be? And in the time I worked here, the lessons I choose to bring into the new chapter of my life are, what lessons? When you do this, oh man, there's a chance that you may cry, you may get emotional, and that's okay. Because at the end of it, you're going to feel lighter, refreshed, stronger, inspired, and more confident, and ready to take on the world. And while I know it's been tough, I want you to know that I'm cheering you on in this next chapter of your life.